Dib, dib age up, your Zim, Zadr, Zim X dib, yeah, 3. Dib and Zim were certainly at the park watching Gur run around in the grass while sitting on the bench. So, sorry about the beans incident again. Dib had apologized about that like 700 times by now. And now, matter how much you say it's fine, he still always apologizes. Zim rolling his eyes a bit, still embarrassed but intrigued. It's fine. It's fine. The desperation for exposure is getting into your head. I can tell it's quite intriguing, or fascinating, to say the least. Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
So you can't blame me for looking, he said, defending himself. It was just so interesting.
Zim chuckled, slightly intrigued. But you do it one last time, and it won't be pretty.
Dib smirked. Or what?
Zim tickled the shoulder with a sly grin of arrogance. He takes the shoulder with a sly grin of arrogance. Or else this will happen for long.
Dib let out a giggle. Hey, no fair! That's cheating!
Zim, it's not when you started it first.
Yeah, whatever. I know you think it's cute when I laugh.
Zim, indeed, it's very quite intriguing.
Dib's smirk returned. Oh, is it now? He asked jokingly as he poked Zim.
Zim nodded while turning away a bit tough and arrogant, secretly amused. But don't get used to my other side far too long, Dib human. Don't get used to it far too long, Dib human.
Dib chuckled, teasing Zim a little more. Oh, I know that, but I sure do love seeing you being soft, Zim.
Zim, I beg your pardon, disgusting human.
He chuckled more as he got closer to Zim. You heard me right.
Zim, oh, I see how it is, filthy earth boy. Immediately pounds on Dib, ruffling around playfully, intrigued in arrogance, while chuckling mischievously.
Dib let out soft yelps and squeals in surprise. He had no fighting in him and just tried to playfully push Zim away. Hey! I'm not a toy! Quit it! He said, trying to cover up his laughs.
Zim, you asked for it, earth boy. Don't come crying to Zim when you try to be a threat around the great Zim.
He couldn't help but keep laughing and squirming around underneath Zim. Hey! I'm not trying to be a threat or a toy. You are too strong.
Zim, never underestimate my intelligence, filthy earth boy. Slowly letting go of Dib while chuckling in satisfaction, amusement.
Dib was left gasping and out of breath, face dusted in pink hue as he just looks up at Zim and sighs with an amused look. You are a complete jerk, he muttered jokingly.
Zim, and you are a ridiculous paranormal human.
He chuckled and jokingly rolled his eyes. Yeah, paranormal my ass, you're just too strong.
Zim laughing in fascination, amusement, enjoying this. Grr, you guys are so cute.
Dib quickly froze as he looked up at Gear, cheeks now dusting red. Gear, don't say that when we're like this.
Zim chuckled, slightly amused from Gur's idiotic comment. Heh, Gur, you silly, idiotic, as usual, never changes. Gur giggles. Aw, I want to take a picture.
Dib sat up and pushed Zim away from himself, a bit flustered and embarrassed from being in that position. No photography.
Gur runs off with a taco while laughing enthusiastically. Meanwhile, Zim smirked, watching the whole thing in observation, surprise, intrigued by Dib's reaction.
Dib let out a sigh of exasperation as he facepalmed, shaking his head. He then looked back over at Zim with a slightly glare, his face still dusted pink. This is your fault.
Zim, aw, what's wrong? Am I that too attractive and intelligent for the innocent earth monkey here? Teased in interest arrogance, fascinated by all this.
Dib blushed ever so slightly more from Zim's teasing, but then smirked. Oh, don't even start with that, Zim. Now you're just trying to flatter yourself.
Zim, I'm just way too charming for you to handle, human. Admit it to me, old pal. Chuckling in observing interest and fascination, curious on how much he's getting on Dib.
Dib rolled his eyes, though the blush on his cheeks only grew ever so slightly. Oh, whatever, you just enjoy teasing me, don't you?
Zim, it's mostly intriguing to me. Can you not blame me? At least it's safer and better than me conquering and invading your planet. Is it not? Is it not?
Dib chuckled as he smirked a bit more, crossing his arms over his chest. Oh, so you are saying you like teasing me more than taking over Earth?
Zim, if it's safer for you otherwise, I would have conquered and invaded it already.
Dib chuckled and smirked at Zim, slowly scooting himself closer towards him and leaning back against the bench with an amused look. Oh, but you like spending time with me more.
Zim, aw, you like me like that, huh? You like that. You like Zim like that, huh? Aw, you like that, huh?
He chuckled in response and moved even closer to Zim, almost to the point where their knees were almost touching. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. You want no.
You won't know. Zim chuckled with a sly expression of interest. Oh, we'll see sooner and later.
Dib smirked as he scooted himself closer, now to the point that their knees were touching. He could feel his cheeks getting hotter, but he tried his best to keep his composure and just maintain the smirk. Oh, but I'm sure you want to know now, don't you?
Zim nodded in a sly curiosity while observing Dib's reaction in fascination.
Dib chuckled as he moved himself even closer, nearly climbing into Zim's lap as he smirked. His cheeks were now burning from blush, but he tried to maintain a calm look on his face. So curious, aren't you?
Zim nodded slyly, fascinated.
Dib's smirk grew wider as he moved forward and sat himself down on Zim's lap, straddling him and sitting facing towards Zim, now at a much closer distance. How curious are you?
Zim, this curious, ready to be a kiss romantically.
Dib let out a soft chuckle, a large smirk on his face as he moved one of his hands up to Zim's waist, slightly pulling him closer. You sure you are ready? It'll get pretty hot, you know?
Zim, huh? Zim's not afraid of anything. You hold inside. Bring it on, sweetie.
Dib chuckled at how Zim teased him, his smirk only getting bigger. He moved a little bit closer, their faces being only a few inches apart now. Oh, you ready for me to make you mine, Zim?
Zim laughed while nodding in amusement.
Dib chuckled once again and moved one of his hands up to Zim's chin, grabbing it and holding it firmly, but not enough to hurt him. So ready to see how good I can make you feel, my love?
Zim, I've been waiting for a long while, stinky human.
Dib smirked as he moved his face right up to Zim's, their noses now almost touching. His hand on Zim's chin still had a firm yet gentle grip. Oh, you're just loving this, aren't you? Can't wait to get a taste of me, my love. Dib slowly tilted Zim's head up a bit so he was looking directly at him, their faces now only millimeters apart as his smirk grew in satisfaction. You sure you're ready to see what I can do, my Zim?
Zim nodded.
Dib chuckled as he slowly moved his face closer, practically centimeters away from Zim's now. His body practically pressed against Zim's. He let out a soft exhale from his mouth, his hand still firmly holding Zim's chin. Ready for the ride of your life?
Zim nodded while chuckling.
Dib slowly grinned as he finally moved his mouth to Zim's, kissing him softly yet passionately. His hand that was on Zim's chin slowly slid a bit lower and rested on his neck, keeping him closer.
Zim relaxing and wrapped around Dib, returning the kiss deeply, passionately.
Dib was a bit surprised at how passionately Zim responded to him, but he quickly returned it, the kiss growing more and more intense. He pushed Zim even closer to himself, holding him against his body. Dib slowly parted his lips and slipped his tongue into Zim's mouth, running it along his lower lip. His hand on Zim's neck now tangled some of his fingers into Zim's hair, holding him in place.
Gur was secretly watching the whole thing in excitement and interest. He silently chuckled in enthusiasm. Zim secretly enjoying it and feeling relaxed in amusement.
Dib pulled Zim closer as he began to deepen the kiss, his tongue entering deeper into Zim's mouth as well, exploring the inside. His stomach began to tighten with flutters as he began to taste Zim on his tongue.
Zim. Gur.
Dib continued to deepen the kiss, their tongues now swirling together in a passionate and intense way. The flutters in his stomach only began to grow more intense and tight, only more eager to taste Zim's mouth and feel his body against him.
Zim. Gur giggles even more while rolling all over the floor.
Dib was getting lost in the kiss, almost forgetting that they were in the park in the daylight. The flutters in his stomach now felt like they were full of butterflies, and he felt so overwhelmed by the feeling. He slowly pushed Zim back against the back of the bench, trapping him in between him against the bench.
Zim wrapped around Dib even more tightly in amusement, flirtatiously.
Dib let out a quiet moan as he felt Zim wrap around him tighter, pulling him even closer to himself, even more so than before. He slowly pulled back from the kiss, a string of saliva trailing between their mouths as they parted. Zim!
Zim.
Dib's breath was shaky as he looked down at Zim, a blush forming on his cheeks as he gazed down at him. The flutters in his stomach were only getting stronger and more intense than before. You're such a good kisser.
Zim. I sure am. I knew I'm always the flirtatious one of all. Gur.
Dib chuckled as he panted, still trying to catch his breath. He was blushing even more after Zim admitted his flirtatious ways, and his stomach now felt like it was completely filled with butterflies. Shut up, you jerk!
Zim. Aw, did I make the Dib human all flustered all of a sudden? All for just a little smooch? All just for a little smooch? Grr giggles. Grr giggling enthusiastically.
The blush on Dib's cheeks got even brighter as Zim teased him, and his stomach was fluttering more than ever before. He had to look away for a second just to prevent himself from turning into a complete mess, just from a little teasing from the Irkin alien. Shut up! It wasn't just a little smooch.
Zim, you're still adorable though. Don't stress yourself out, cutie. Playfully nudged in fascination. Grr.
Dib let out a soft scoff in response to Zim's tease, his blush growing yet again as Zim called him a cutie. He was trying to keep his cool, but he found it increasingly difficult with Zim calling him names, and also with the fluttering and butterflies in his stomach. Stop calling me names! And stop calling me a cute! He quickly cut himself off, too embarrassed to finish.
Zim tilting his head in interest, while smirking a bit intrigued, while playfully ruffling Dib's hair. Oh, such a feisty bad boy. Aren't you human? Aren't you human?
Dib froze when Zim started to ruffle his hair, his stomach fluttering even more with butterflies. He let out a small yelp at feeling Zim's hand move through his hair, but he attempted to cover it up with a scoff. Hey, hey, hey! Stop it with the hair ruffles, jerk!
Zim chuckling in interest, while nudging Dib's arm playfully, flirtatious demeanor. Aw, relax, my little paranormal geek. You're quite tempting for Irkins and human disguise like me. Like Irkins in human disguise like me. To do this to ya. Perhaps I should taste you even more?
Dib let out a small squeak from Zim's nudge, his stomach practically swarming with butterflies from the amount of flirting Zim was doing with him. The teasing and flirts were making him feel like he was being completely flustered by Zim, and all his words were doing nothing to help. Don't you dare! Hey, and stop teasing me with the flirting!
Zim. And why not? Are you hiding the fact that you are in love with Zim's company? Grr watching this intently, interested in a stupid way.
Dib's blush got even brighter as Zim mentioned him being in love with him, and the flutters and butterflies in his stomach only increased. He was trying his best to stay calm and in control of himself, but he was failing miserably. He shook his head in embarrassment, trying to look away from Zim. I am not in love with you, you jerk!
Zim laughed, intrigued, while... Well then, if you're in denial, perhaps I'll make you spill it out. I'll make you spill it out myself. Perhaps I'll make you spill it out. He begins to wrap around Dib's body tightly, pulling Dib closer to himself, while starting to press his lips towards Dib closely.
Dib let out a squeak and a yelp as he was suddenly pulled even closer to Zim, his face now only centimeters away from Zim's. His stomach was now swarmed with butterflies and fluttering nonstop, making him feel more embarrassed than ever. A pink hue dusted his cheeks and his heart began to pound in his chest. You're not getting me to say anything from this, Zim.
Zim, wanna bet, sweet cheeks? Wanna bet, sweet cheek? Wanna bet, sweet cheek? Winking, romantically mischievous, while licking his lips, desperately fascinated, he moved his face directly to Dib's lips, preparing to kiss. Grr squealing in enthusiasm, watching intently.
Dib's breath hitched as Zim's licked his lips, and he could feel his pulse quicken from excitement. He tried to look anywhere but Zim, still trying to keep up the act that he wasn't in love with Zim, but in reality, he was dying for Zim's lips to meet his. Yes, I do, but
Zim grins, seductively intrigued. He begins to kiss Dib by the lips, more hungry and deeper passionate.
Dib let out a small moan as their lips met, finally giving in and melting into the kiss. He wrapped his arms around Zim tightly, pulling him against his body and enjoying every bit of the kiss. His stomach was absolutely swarming with butterflies, yet he was enjoying the feeling far too much to care.
Zim laughs, laughing through the kiss in amusement. He continues to deepen the kiss to be easier to make Dib confess.
Dib was lost in the kiss at this point, feeling Zim's laugh through the kiss making his stomach swarm even more than before. He let out some more small moans as he continued to deepen the kiss, the fluttering and butterflies in his stomach only increasing in intensity.
Zim, are you ready to confess yet, my sweet cheeky little human?
Dib felt his entire face flush and heat up from being called my sweet cheeky little human, yet he still refused to confess to Zim that he was in fact in love with him. He tried to remain somewhat calm, even though his stomach was swarming with butterflies and his pulse was quickening by the second. No. I won't tell you anything, jerk.
Zim licking through his lips, licking through his lips, seductively begins to trail bite love marks all over Dib's chest, his chest. Oh, really? Then perhaps what if I try doing this? What if I try doing this? His hands begin to trail around Dib's body, still wrapped around Dib tightly, trap him. Tightly trapped. Trapping Dib, while his mouth begins tracing biting kiss marks all over Dib's chest. Hungrily romantic.
Dib let out a sharp gasp as Zim's hands began to trail over his body, feeling them slowly move until they were all around him. He had to bite back another moan as Zim started to kiss and bite at his chest, leaving behind love bites that he knew would be hard to hide later. The feeling of Zim marking him felt so good. He was having trouble trying to keep himself from giving in and confessing to Zim.
Zim, I can promise you this. I can keep up this makeout session for the rest of the day if you don't confess, human sweet treat.
Dib's face grew even hotter from Zim's words, and the butterflies in his stomach increased in intensity once more. The thought of being trapped in a makeout session with Zim for the rest of the day was both terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. He found it harder to hold back his moans as Zim continued to bit and mark at his chest, and his heart was beating so hard he was afraid Zim might be able to hear it. You really think I'll give in that easily?
Zim, obviously, I'll keep this up for more than one day. I bet. Begins to kiss and bite mark around Dib's face now, hungrily romantic.
Dib couldn't hold back the loud moan that escaped him after Zim bit and kissed around his face. The feeling of Zim leaving love bites and hickeys on his neck and face was becoming more and more overwhelming with each bite. The fluttering in his stomach only increased, and the butterflies only got stronger. He felt almost completely trapped in Zim's grasp, physically and emotionally. Fine, I give in! Please, stop for God's sake.
Zim gave a few last kisses on the face a bit before looking at Dib with a smirking, intrigued, satisfied. Smirking and intrigued in satisfaction, satisfied. Ah, so look who finally decided to admit someone has a crush on me. You finally admit that you have a crush on me?
Dib's breath was shaky and his whole face was flushed as Zim gave him kisses one last time before pulling back. He was still trapped in Zim's grasp, and he had admitted to being in love with him, leaving him feeling weak and vulnerable. He panted as he looked up at Zim, not knowing what else to say or do now. Yeah, I do have a crush on you. Are you happy now?
Zim hugs Dib in a snuggling embrace while nodding. You bet I am. You bet I am. To be honest, I never felt like this in a long time. Until now. Until now, of course.
Dib was surprised at how suddenly affectionate Zim was being, but he quickly melted into the embrace and hugged back, burying his head into Zim's shoulder. The butterflies in his stomach began to slow as he relaxed into Zim's embrace, and he let out a soft and shaky exhale of breath. I never thought I'd actually admit that to you. But here we are, and I can't say I regret it.
Zim, me neither, human. This is awkward now, is it?
Dib chuckled softly, but shook his head in response to Zim's question. No, it's not awkward. I think it's nice that we both feel this way, but I feel like I still have to ask. He lifted his head and looked up at Zim. So are we, together now? Or what?
Zim, silly human. Of course we are together now. Nudge playfully while chuckling a bit.
Dib chuckled and blushed a bit after Zim's teasing and playful nudge, glad that Zim had basically confirmed that they were now dating. Hey, don't call me silly, jerk! He playfully stuck his tongue out at Zim teasingly.
Zim.
Dib smiled as he laughed, looking up at Zim with a soft, adoring smile on his face. He was still trapped in Zim's arms and embrace, but truthfully, he didn't mind where he was. He was more than happy with being trapped with Zim. So where do we go from here, Space Boy?
Zim. I don't know. This is much for Urkins like me to examine. You're the expert with experience. You tell me. Why don't you tell me?
Dib chuckled at Zim's response and shook his head. You're the one that has trapped me in your arms and is being all clingy and sweet, and yet I'm the expert? Charade.
Sure. Zim.
Dib laughed a bit as he saw Zim's chuckling and giggling, unable to stop himself from thinking about how cute he looked when he was so happy. You're such a dork. I swear.
Zim. Look who's talking, sweet big head cheek. Arrogantly flirtatious in amusement.
Dib's jaw dropped at Zim's words and felt his face flush brighter than before. Excuse you, I do not have a big head, and you're one to talk about sweet cheek. You're the clingy one here.
Zim. You're just dying for more of my examining affection, human.
Dib's stomach swarmed with butterflies as Zim pointed out how obvious was yearning for more affection from him, blushing yet again. Am not! You're the one who's clinging to me so much! You're basically wrapped around me the whole time!
Zim. Still though, you drive me crazy for ya.
Dib flushed again and his heart skipped a beat when he heard Zim's words, feeling completely flustered by that. Shut up! It's not my fault that you're obsessed with me.
Zim, not my fault that you're secretly attracted to anyone, especially me.
Dib huffed stubbornly, but he knew that Zim was right. He was secretly attracted to many people, and especially Zim, but he would never admit it. I I said, shut up! It's not my fault if I find you attractive, okay?
Zim kissed Dib by the cheek, seductively intrigued in interest.
Dib's heart skipped another beat as Zim randomly kissed his cheek, feeling flustered yet again, and even more so when Zim looked at him with his seductive and intrigued look. You can't just go around kissing me at any time. You'll kill me.
Zim, sorry, I can't help myself. It's not my fault that I find you this attracting.
Dib huffed in a weak attempt to remain stubborn, but he was melting on the inside. Zim's constant affection, flirtations, and just his general behavior were killing him. You just like getting on my nerves because you know how flustered I get because of you.